Greetings in the best of salutations. That would be prayer, power, peace, patience, and prosperity. Welcome on behalf of UB Blake National Jazz Institute Cultural Center, Common Humanity Mission, Inc., to the event gathering, marching forward in the midst of a pandemic, breaking barriers while moving toward healing. Today's topic of discussion, if I may, want to deal with what is called human experience, attachment, or connection, thought-provoking ideas of resolve. The human experience. Attachment or conflict, thought-provoking ideas of resolve. May we strengthen our resolve. The DNA of common humanity. Science, culture, social. Social, culture, science. Deals with the technology, the agriculture, industry. Promoters, cultivators, and communicators. We have an opportunity to express appreciation for this human experience. Attachment or connection. plant seeds of truth, hope, and success, and love it in love. It will all come back to you in abundance. The law of nature. There is a teaching of what they call ancient Kemet, know thyself. A person who knows not and knows not that they know not is foolish. Disregard them. A person who knows not and knows that they know not is simple. Teach them. A person who knows not and believes that they know is dangerous. Avoid them. A person who knows and knows not that they know is asleep. Awaken them. A person who knows and knows that they know is wise. Follow them. All these persons reside in you. Know thyself and to my art be true. Be true to yourself. You must know yourself. Be that which you want to become. A change agent, then you be that. We are perfect in our own uniqueness. A person will never change if he or she does not see an issue with their actions. Be that what you want to become. And knowing all that we want to become and that which we want to be. There are consequences. And that which we want to be and that which we want to become. But in those consequences, something is being afflicted on you. And when it's being afflicted on you, it is done so with a challenge. It says that real patience comes when tragedy has struck us. Whomever is patient will endure. It says that in theatrical performances in ancient Greece were not simply or even primarily for the purpose of entertainment. Tragic drama provided the audience with an opportunity to reflect on its own social, political, and religious views. It says, Buddha talked about truth. Truth, the Buddha found, cannot be adequately described in a few sentences. It is written about or attributed to Buddha. Perhaps it requires a lifetime to understand it. I have learned that out of understanding comes consciousness, which means that one must become aware of his or her potential because he is in a surrounding that which encompasses him. The first sign of deception is when he or she reaches outside himself. You or I are that change agent. Goes on to say about Buddha, he described this, when it comes to truth, in a parable, that man should seek the middle path between self-indulgence and self-mortification, embarrassment, the middle way. Known as the Noble Eightfold Path, consisted of right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right mode of living, right endeavor, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The great truth for Buddha, as he explained, is consisted of four noble truths. First, he understood before he left on his pilgrimage, and the man's existence is full of conflict, sorrow, suffering. The second noble truth holds that all this difficulty and pain is caused by man's selfish desires. The third holds that there can be found emancipation and freedom. Fourth noble truth, the Noble Eightfold Path, is the way to this liberation. Socrates said he come to realize all that he knows is nothing. Just planting seeds, truth. For me, truth is the cause that impacts, infects, and affects the results of one's reality. Of hope, not false hope. What is false hope? When you try to pretend to make good on a promise that you are unable to come through on. The biggest crime that you can commit is fraud. It puts you at an advantage and put others at a disadvantage and create fatality and a attitude of fatalism as it pertains to fraudulent behavior. Success. Booker T. Washington talked about it in this way. It's not as pertains to your position in life, but the obstacles that you had to go through to get to where you are. We're going to get to that too. And love, for me, love is the manner and way in which we communicate as a family, our humanity. And if we do that, as it pertains to order, duty, and responsibility, we will realize if there is something that has been irresponsible, not only as our resolve have been weakened, but our accountability is weak one for another. And when one's accountability is weak or strong, it will come back to you in that manner. This is the law of nature. The true picture, taking from that which was written, commentaries on selected verses, the Holy Quran documented from the teachings of Imam Warren D. Muhammad. The true picture. You ascend to higher air. Still talking about the middle ground. The higher you go, the more you get away from bad air. You get pure air up there. So the mustaqim is called this straight path. It's also an ascension we see in the day of what the biblical people call a Pentecost, that there was an ascension, a rising above, and that the people were in one place, one accord. The universe speaks one language, that is the language frequency. So this Mustaqim is also the ascension from the impure up to the pure. Remember I said earlier about the affliction to get to the dross off the gold, pure from the darkness up to the light. This path is the path from impurity to increased purity, away from impurity, heighten one's serenity, and lower one's stress. And it goes on to say, in the increase, you are in a crease, in understanding. It's a difference to be a man or a woman of knowledge than to be a man or a woman in knowledge. In the path. This is what this path is going straight up. And it is a path of part truth to all truth. Keep the whole truth. He says the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and the whole truth, so help me. What has help me to come to an understanding of this path, almost like a prayer. Path in the favor that has been bestowed on others before me. The whole truth is seen in the whole universe. It cannot be seen in just the earth, as George Benson did a song, down here on the ground, ain't no place for living. So people go on an exploration. They travel. Mark Twain says travel is good because it helps to eliminate prejudice and bigotry. The universe speaks one language, that is the language of frequency. If you want to know the whole science, the whole reality, goes on in this writing, Imam Muhammad Muhammad, you have to have a perception of the universe. One, a perception of matter, connecting and extending throughout space. And we all occupy the same time and space and consciousness. This is the true picture. The earth is limited, so you can travel. People ride horses, ride camels, then cars, travel. Humans create airplanes, buggies, vehicles, travel. The birds, fish, travel. It is a part of their DNA, their organized structure. Yet, when there comes growth and development, when there's growth, it must correspond with structural development. How we structure and govern our lives. The mental and the emotion and the spirit. You can travel through it, you can travel around it. Now you can take a car and go around the world. You put your car on the boat and it will take you there where you can drive car on any continent. Einstein said, well, give me imagination rather than knowledge, where you can imagine a thing to come into fruition. The closer you come to it, the more, the closer you come to, for it to come into fruition. The more you see it, the more you see it coming to fruition. Fruition into the Christ nature. But it must go through, some call it fitra. You must go through a filtering out when it comes to one's attitude, one's thinking, and one's mentality. Yes. We know this when you can take your car and travel, put it on the boat and travel, because people are doing that, doing it through technology. I think Julius Nyeri talks about it as a means, a way to communicate with people all across the world. And I think even the King says something to that effect too. You are moving upward though, upward from the small truth to the big truth. From the little things, you're moving away. There is a, I don't know if it's an eagle or not, but the higher it goes, if a bird is on it, it's pecking on the back. But the further it go in altitude, that bird cannot go as high as the eagle. So he loses his breath, his altitude. He has to come off his back. So those things that are bothering each and every one of us, the higher you go, the more you cannot ride your back. Dr. King says a man can't ride your back. It's less it's bent. But in that bent, there could be a temperament. And when you deal with a temperament, you deal with the attitude. And that means one must maintain temperance, self-control. And when one is self-controlled, he or she knows the importance of being cognitive, knowing the person of being coherent, I should say, being coherent. But moving upward from the small truth to the big truth, to the whole truth. And therefore, so help me, I do. This information age in which we are living in, dealing with media, press, and television. There's a lot of information, but yet there must be some transformation. The information revolution has served as a defining conception of our time. The array of these powerful institutions that every day people reference to the media. Some will call it the most effective devil in America, because of its influence that it has on the thinking in the minds of others. People become accustomed to that. I've learned that people have become entertained by those things in which they knowledge in which they cannot even grasp, and those behind the scenes know that. So they play the word game with you. Plant seeds of truth, hope. Yes. And success and love, it will come back to you in abundance. Life and have more. So we want to deal with analyzing attitude, behavior patterns, weight in the balance as we move from victim to being victorious. I realize that we are living in a society, as I said, media, press, and television, where everything is designed to stimulate you, stimulate stimulate your thought, or just not do this. Okay, stimulate your thought. Let's leave it there. But stimulate you to behave in a manner, in a way, without conscious thought, which means that renders a person to be incompetent, inconscious. It could render a person to be competent, but yet unconscious of his competentness. Huh? That's why Kwame Ture says the duty of the conscious is to make the unconscious aware of their conscious behavior, man. That's the truth. This balance, you see, it says that unity is stronger than diversity. We want to strengthen our resolve. And oneness is stronger than conflict. Analyzing behavior pattern, weighing the balance. For there is a scientific dictum that states everything that exists in some amount, and if it exists and can be measured, that's mathematics. How can you calculate the unknown by first calculating the known? Bobby Wright got this from this. There is a scientific dictum which states that everything exists in some amount, and if it exists, it can be measured. Me assured, it is about an assurance or self-assurance. We are born in a condition, placed in a situation, surrounded by circumstances due to some previous activity that has taken place. So it is true when it comes to the human experience, attachment or connection, thought-provoking ideas are resolved. We must come to conclude that it is fragile. It is fragile. But we must be patient. So it is true that we do not recognize among ourselves us or our measurement of importance are generally faulty and speak mainly to superficialities of life. It speaks to our superficialities. So now we're dealing with ignorance. That which we think we know, we realize, that there's more to be learned. No one has no monopoly on intelligence. Now, once again, analyzing attitude, behavior, patterns, weighing the balance. An individual has not started living, Dr. King says, until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of humanity. One day this nation will rise up and live on the true meaning of its creed. This faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discord of our nations into a beautiful sympathy of brotherhood. Conscious thought. If we are not acknowledging our conscious behavior, and therefore we are in denial and deceiving ourselves at the expense we have become so accustomed to doing things in an unconscious. The dynamics of marketing. Actualize, contextualize, textualize, conceptualize, visualize. The visualize is the base. Vision stems from the source of one's thinking. This was said by a brother, Minister Honorable Louis Farrakhan said this of his teacher, Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Vision stems from the source of one's thinking. You visualize it, then you put it in a concept. You conceptualize it. But you must have the right attitude about it, Then it becomes a text. Then you put it in the proper historical perspective, and then you are living it out. Acceptance of the fact. That means you're not dealing with cognitive dissonance. Lack of prejudice. Self-fulfillment. Problem solving. Spontaneity. Creativity. And morality. Want to deal with 5 learning disabilities, 5 social learning disabilities: inadequacy, alienation, grievance, discrepancy, and indifference. Inadequacy, a feeling of not being good enough. So therefore, we dress ourselves up, as Nina Fuller says, with external therapy. We participate in activities we know that is not healthy or good for us, nor is it good for others. One's inability to deal with life. Self-doubt due to an environment of misgiving. Lack of self-worth. That's why I say that Common Humanity Mission promote the value of self-worth. This is what I see. When you have done the best you could in life experiences continuously to beat you down, you ask yourself the question, am I good enough? I say yes, you are good enough. That's the challenge. It says, my grace is sufficient enough. Alienation, lack of sympathy. I've learned that one's true purpose in life is to move from sympathy to empathy, transition from that. Because if not, one will be dealing with a spirit of apathy. Lack of sympathy, interest, and enthusiasm. Be enthusiastic. When one's environment has become ill-nurtured, uncultivated, it's almost like the wilderness, hostile and non-caring, you feel as though that you're all alone, so he or she will start to be more likely to take on the attitude physiologically and psychologically of the environment. No one cares. Why should I? Become accustomed to that. And then therefore we vacillate up and down. Yes, you go to the doctor check your vital signs. He said, well, what environment did you go up in? He said, oh, I see that. Where's the problem? Environment. Grievance. Excuse me. There is a deep sense of deep-seated resentment. Excuse me. Self-hatred and disdain we have for ourselves. We deal with unhealthy anger, animosity, distrust, frustration, and anxiety attacks. As a result, misplaced anger is usually directed at the wrong person. There must be a filter or a fitted release point as it pertains to this deep-seated resentment, self-hatred, and disdain that some of us have for ourselves. Discrepancy, lack of account of compatibility. We don't know how to deal with our discrepancy. Well, possibly all these things could have come out of these 5 social learning disabilities is how a person have been educated. You know, the education system could have came out of this. Actually, someone said that maybe our grievances came, our education system came out of our grievance. You know what I'm saying? You know, even when people protest, you know, lack of compatibility prevents us from learning how to reason with each other sensibly and respectively. I always say we need to learn reason from the reason with progression and reason from the premise of conversation. Respectively, communicate with each other. The words we use to communicate one with another, Um, we want to, be very genuine one with another and learn how to coexist with one another without conflict. But it must start with who? With self. The challenge is to live with oneself, yourself. Respect yourself. Be happy, and happiness is the joy that one feels when he or she is in pursuit of his potential. Be happy with yourself. Love yourself by the way how you treat yourself as well as how you treat others, regardless of their status in life. Indifferences, social learning disability, because I make my case that we suffer from SLDD, a social learning disorder disability. Lack of importance or significance, it deals with the principle of self-acceptance. That is your uniqueness. Each leaf blade of grass is different. If a person doesn't appreciate and accept him or herself, they end up degrading and devaluing themselves by participating in foolish behaviors and self-destructive tendencies, their demise, because that's what's being exploited is one human tendency. Let's deal with a word called introversion. Introverted person tend to have a higher self-esteem because there will be no need for low self-esteem if we hold each other in higher esteem. Extroversion can make it easier for people to approach strangers, talk in large groups, and appear friendly. And you can appear friendly. You can have a smile on your face, but yet you could be growling at the same time. This can cause others to perceive extroverts more positively. Now we want to be received more positively, but yet we have to get to a point where that we must be genuine and care and love for ourselves in a positive manner. We don't need to put on any airs to be, to be seen or perceived, in a positive way, in a positive manner, but potentially further boosting their self-esteem. People with low self-esteem may be anxious about talking to unfamiliar people and more uncomfortable in groups. So may we learn to be comfortable with ourselves and our thinking and our attitude in the best of way, because the brain cells that is best is constructed to think correctly, and we are here to be productive. Problem solving skills build self-determination skills such as goal setting, decision making, self-advocacy. As we see here, the identity, the key. I say that many people are dealing with an identity crisis. There's a variety of problem-solving processes, but each process consists of a series of steps. Maybe you could look at step pyramid. But identifying the problem, searching for possible solutions, I mean alternative solutions, not resulting in violence, because violence is the result of an unresolved status, and rage is a precursor to violence. If you are suffering in silence, and then that builds up your rage. Searching for possible solutions, selecting the most optimal solution. That's a challenge in how we select the most optimal solution. And in planning a possible solution, it is useful to view problem solving as a cycle, because sometimes a problem needs several attempts to solve it. And maybe, as they say, nothing dies, we just merely transform. Maybe there is a transformation that we are trying to keep, maybe, I know, returning in some form or fashion. I do not know, but that there is a attempts to solve a problem. And I always say, once again, many are suffering from an identity crisis. Attempts to solve it or a problem changes until the problem changes. The diagram shows a 7-step problem-solving process. implement, evaluate, explore, set goals, look at other alternatives. Remember, we're looking for most optimal solutions. And then you select, identify with that. And you open the key to your success. Problem solving skill. Obstacles are what we see when we take our eyes. We'll take your eyes off your goal. Just as a reminder, we are not here to open small minds. We are here to connect with great. Another reminder, the messenger can only deliver the message to those who are a vibrational match. That's even in interacting with yourself, coming to yourself, and with others as you may interact with or even make a vibrational match. As someone says that physical attraction, is that's natural, but mental connection, physical connection, whatever, but a mental connection is rare. But a vibrational match, as I said earlier, the universe speaks one language, that's the language of frequency, to the message. So don't stress yourself about saying things to people who cannot hear. 7 dangers to human virtue. Who is the greatest among you in rank? Only by way of virtue. Wealth without work. Mental labor precedes physical labor. That's why I say I labor in the field of life transitional endeavors, trying to make an impact wherever I go. Pleasure without conscience. Where there is pleasure, there comes responsibility. Knowledge without character. And remember, character is the outgrowth of one's humanity. When you do things, one stimulates you, you do things without any conscious thought, you are out of character. And remember, your conscience is your guide. It convicts you. And you can stand on that merit. Business without ethics. It's an obligation that we do not exploit nor take advantage of one another. Science without humanity. Be concerned about the humanity of others. Religion without sacrifice. Truth cannot be sacrificed to any interest. Only interest can be sacrificed to the truth. And politics without principle. People argue over methodology, but the principle stays the same. That which is contrary to nature, what goes up, it must come down. Rules of engagement, the human experience. Attachment or conflict, or attachment or connection. Thought-provoking ideas are resolved. Strengthening one resolve, Yeah, marching forward in the midst of a pandemic. Breaking barriers while moving toward healing. Yes. 1, before the eyes can see, they must be temporarily and be incapable of tears and emotion. We want to deal with the logic here. Too much emotion without logic. It's the balance. They must get out of the way to hear the truth and overcome the hurt, the pain, and the stress. Before you can hear, you must temporarily lose your sensitivity and be coherent. There was something that a brother was talking about, being sensitive, and he was dealing with, fish, And remember about a fish, you put out the bait that's going to catch the fish, and the fish is thinking that you are feeding him or it, and you wind up, feeding um, off the fish. And this is how it is with people. You think that they're doing you a favor, while at the same time, they are manipulating you and exploiting you. They are feeding off of you. They will create terms like black, white, all these terms. And at the same time, in their sophistication, they're feeding off you and tearing you down. Then people who are being fed off are being uh, feeding off you. Then those who are being used, who are in their position, then they're feeding you that mess. So that's very animalistic in thinking. That is business without ethics, because just because someone makes the law, that does not mean that it's right. Yes. You protesting. Yes. So 3, before the voice can speak in one another's presence, it must have lost the power to wound. Knowing when there is balance, understanding speaks clearly. 4, before the soul can stand on his own merit. Remember, you can learn a lot from a child. That a child wants to walk and stand on his own 2 feet. His own merit of honor, dignity, and integrity in the presence of another. His feet must be washed and cleansing of the heart of the spirit. The energy of the heart means for me the center of your intellect, the Christ nature, the centering, the heart of the intellect, the development of one's intellect for the betterment of humanity. And when knowledge is applied, it becomes intelligence. Because know your ledge, know your edge, know yourself. All of those things, the simple, the foolish, the dangerous, they are you, they are me. Avoid those things, know those things, know yourself. If there is a devil in you, you are a devil. If there is a God in you, know that. I'm not saying that you are the God. What I mean by God is a thought that materializes from the mind, but we're talking about something that is of a higher power. That's something that is abstract, because we are a community, a body. Our body is a community, because there's more to each and every one of us to meet the eye. The higher you go up, the smaller things cannot go up with you. The more intense the heat comes, the more the draws get off the gold. Now, you make your decision when it comes to that expression of term called God and even in the devil. 5, before progress can be pursued, the mind must consistently be emptied and renewed. That's the challenge. Renew our mind, our thinking, our attitude, and our behavior will follow. Rules of engagement. When you are get ready to come together in a woman, there is an engagement. But the thing is, the key to that word there is rule. A rule is a measurement, me assure, and then you are engaged, you are gauging something. It's meant to gauge, to find out where you are. In the business world, they call it cost benefit analysis. I call it self-introspection, or go through the valley of the skull in the biblical, the valley of reflection. Huh? Because remember, your mind, man is mind, mind is man is God, God is mind. You're giving an assessment. You're gauging yourself, knowing where you are, and be honest about it. And then there's another thing in that term, age of maturity. That's why I like to say I promote the maturation process of understanding, tolerance / temperament, confidence, and respect. So 6, we must be impeccable with our word. Our word is integrity. That's our bond. Your word speaks with integrity. Learn to say what you mean. Avoid using words to speak against yourself. You do not hold yourself in self-contempt, self-judgment, meaning an inferior position, because that which some people have been charged with being inferior. Then they act out in that manner and in that. When we deal with social comparison, an inferior position, trust me, that's a challenge. Or gossip leading to division and fear as it pertains to each other. Use the power of your words in the direction of the truth, which is the cause that affects your reality, as we learn to distinguish myths from reality. Use our words to heal rather than to wound. 7, do not take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their reality. When you are mature and secure within yourself as it pertains to others' opinions and actions, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. 8, do not make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstanding. But the greatest distance between us all is a misunderstanding. Sadness and drama, with just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Overcome the sadness and drama. 8, always do your best, or 9, always do your best will change from moment to moment. It will be different. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstances, do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, abuse, and neglect. Oof. Connection and attachment or attachment. Do you know that there is a difference between a connection and attachment? Where there is connection, where there is no connection, there is no growth, and it only responds to structural development. How you structure your life or govern your life, your attitude and your thoughts. And these two ones' behavior. Attachment, it has a different effect on your life, an impact. It's true. It's within a biological connection, one with another. Remember, when we are engaged in any passion or heated relationship, we spend years over time when we're planning and we get together. And we remember we said it was at a vibrational match. And sometimes we've been trained to mate it's a challenge, from the navel down rather than the neck up. But the breakup, the physical connection is not there, but the emotional connection is still there. So, in other words, still I was dealing with the biology, connection one to another, to seek out and have a meaningful relationship one with another. Because when it says be fruitful and multiply, it means to be productive. Besides our biology connection, there's also an energy connection. And it's a connection that runs deep on the soul level. So therefore, we must invest in our soul. Got a soul made in. James Brown would say soul power. Korea called it soul Korea. Peace. Soul. Yes, ancient Kemet, they associate that with either the Ba or the Ka one. But yes, so there is an investment. So we must invest in our soul, which means invest in ourselves. Invest in ourselves. That's business. Be a business investor, investor in business. So we know certain folks are entrepreneurs and they're business people. Yeah, that's what it means. The soul is invest in yourself, because business is a perpetual motion. And motion is the maturing development of life. Yes. Connection. When you have a connection with someone, you recognize a part of you in that person. And remember, you must recognize a part in you that's dangerous, a part in you that's simple, a part of you that needs to be awakened. Yes. So we must awaken into understanding of the investment of ourselves, of our soul. That's business. Yes. And when one misunderstands this, and in the business of leading you down a path to invest or have an invested interest in misleading and misguiding you, with that you don't come into the true knowledge of yourself, as you've been charged, a person has been in charge with inferior, and people know that, and they are manipulating you. But yet, when there is intelligence, manipulation must leave the room. I'm talking about the misuse of manipulation. Yes. So we must recognize. When you recognize, you identify that part of you, and the person is that through which sound is made. It is a familiar feeling, but in a different form. That means you take on a what? A different form. You have transformed and transcended. You know what I'm saying? Rise above. Remember, the inner conversations that we have with ourselves, it could create our circumstances in life. Attachment. You see, the brother is trying to run away from, trying to pull them, is gravity. When you have an attachment to someone, you have put your happiness and desires in someone else's hands. And that's not good at all. You are willing to give someone else the right to control your well-being. That's challenge. That's a challenge. And society has really made that to become a part of not only culture, it's custom, become customary. That you attach, and then therefore you become dependent. But there are stages. There as a child, again, you're born dependent, then you're independent, then you become interdependent. To coexist as a complementary to this plane of existence. Attract what you expect, reflect what you desire, become what you respect, mirror what you admire. That's you. That's me. Once again, most of us are totally unaware that our inner conversations are the causes of our circumstances in life. Self-control is temperance / temperament, deals with being coherent. You have to get to a point where your mood, you say mood is your personality and the weather is your climate, one of the two. But people come and things or come into your life because of your mood. It's your mood that brings things into existence. Think about it. That comes into your domain, if I may use that word. Your mood. But you can't allow your mood shouldn't shift as we make this paradigm shift from victim to victorious, this is a challenge to, doesn't shift based on the insignificant actions of others. Don't allow others to control the direction of your life. That's a good, powerful point. Before you argue with someone, ask yourself, is that person even mentally mature enough to grasp the concept of different perspectives? Because if not, there is absolutely no point. No point. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your self-worth. Healing a person will not necessarily change the world, but it can change the world for that person. Think about it. It will not necessarily, because change is a product of human effort. The effort must be synthesized into a useful purpose. But it can change the world for that person. I realize this here before I proceed on, is that giving birth or new life is painful. And some of us don't want to go through the pain of being reborn again. You know? All that we are is a result of what we have thought. Our mind, our thoughts make us what we are, who we are. There is a pledge that we can contribute. But we are here to contribute to this plane of existence in a complementary way. Complement. There is no family without individual. Individual is the sum total of the whole. Individual, the dual. The struggle, the duality. The value of family and individual concerns. There is no community without family. That which we hold in common is the unity. The value, community concerns. There is no country without community. The value of country concern. Tribe. There is no environment without the spiritual wisdom of discipline that it brings. The value of environmental concern about the environment. There is no joy without the happiness it brings. Family is the key. Social life. Those who participate in that activity find joy in it, and those who don't find joy in misery. The value of joy and happiness concerns. There would be no me without you. The value of you and me concerns. And conclusion. Today will never come again. Be a blessing. Be a friend. Encourage someone. take time to care. Let your words heal. Still a wound. Yes, marching forward in the midst of a pandemic, breaking barriers, moving forward toward healing. And we know that healing is accountability. We want to strengthen our resolve. Once we strengthen our resolve, it puts us in a position of power and strength, because that is a disciplinary act, just as our parents discipline us. Don't think that the society in which we live is natural phenomenon called Earth. It disciplines us as well. And those who exceed beyond their limitations will be exposed. That's the truth. DNA, Common Humanity Mission, the social, culture, science, the technology, the agriculture, the industrials. Promoters, we're cultivators, we're communicators, we have an opportunity to express appreciation for the human experience. Attachment, connection, thought-provoking ideas, resolve. Marching forward in the midst of the pandemic, breaking barriers while moving toward healing. Where we can alert for next week's presentation. Presentation series of marching forward in the midst of the pandemic, breaking barriers, while moving toward healing. The greatness lies in you and me. The next time I leave you with this beautiful image, sound of expression, healing. I want to thank Brother James Jackson Perkins Foundation. Such a beautiful PowerPoint. Brother James Jackson, Perkins Foundation. I want to thank him. Plant seeds of truth, hope, success, and love. It will come back to you in abundance. This is the law. Till next time. Talk to you.